Welcome back to the Art Inside the Craft podcast. I'm your host, Jeremy Glazier, and this is episode 16. Today's guest, David Duchovny, really exemplifies what the Art Inside the Craft podcast is all about. And whether applying his artistic talent to acting, authoring novels, or the reason I invited him to the show to discuss the music on his third album, Gestureland, he's pouring his heart and talent into each avenue of creativity. We get inside the writing process and discuss the journey the creation of the Gestureland album took, some of his songwriting motivations and inspirations, and getting out on the road with the band. Listen in now on that interview with Mr. David Duchovny. Just a little bit of the history. So it's been 3 years between this one and your last one, and I know you've been busy with the day job and writing novels, and of course the pandemic, which kind of messed everything up. But when you started writing for the album, did you have the theme kind of for Gestureland in mind, or did it just kind of organically go that way?
It was just organic. It was just, I guess, I write the songs as they kind of appear to me or they come out. And I think the through line is, I guess it's kind of my consciousness, I guess. But, it's like, that's not the concept of the album. It's just like, if there's something connecting the songs, it would be that they come from the same kind of a place during the same time, which wasn't the time of the pandemic. It was the time before that. So I think what happens is, obviously, everything that comes out now is like, it's seen in a different light. It just is. It's just like seen through the light of the pandemic in a way.
Right.
And you just hope that the songs you wrote are universal enough so that they can kind of be reinterpreted. And I think, themes of loneliness and miscommunication and love and longing and connection are, that's what all songs are always about.
Yeah.
And I would think that the pandemic just intensifies that,
And do you tend to write like all the time, or do you really need to like structure time just to specifically sit down and kind of put the pen to paper?
Yeah, I mean, I have to have something I'm doing. Like if it's a novel, I wish I was writing all the time, but unless I have an idea, I don't write. I don't really. It's not like fun to just like write, unless I'm writing towards like to tell a story. With songwriting, it's rare that I've said, okay, you got to write a song today. But when I've done that, I write a song. I mean, I think I could probably write a song every day. I don't know if they'd be any good, but it's like they're there and you can get them, but you do have to kind of sit down and open yourself up to get them.
Sure.
And the couple times that I've sat down with the band and we go, let's write a song. Who's got a riff? Who's got a chord progression? Who's got a word? And I love those sessions. And I think like for the next album, I think I would like to go about the writing process that way. We're kind of write as a band.
Cool. That's kind of what I was curious about as well. So you started recording in February, and then obviously you had to lock down. You got back together in the studio. When you guys came back into the studio, were the songs pretty much all done, or did you kind of, since you've had a little bit of time to kind of sit with them, go, hey, let's make a few changes, let's do some other stuff? And
both. So we finished like 14 demos by the time we had to shut down. So we were going to then choose the 12 that are on the album. So we pretty much had the songs the way we liked them. But then when we had to shut down, we really had time to think about the production and the arrangement and the vibe, really, because for me, it's like sometimes I'll write a song and it's moving to me in a way. And the way I record it first is just on GarageBand with me and a guitar. And maybe it doesn't sound great at all, but there's something in there that's moving. And then I'll get it with the band and we'll get it and it's played perfectly. And now it sounds really good, but it no longer has that impact. And I'll go, fucked it up somewhere by making it too good or something.
Sure.
We lost something. And then we all got to figure out, all right, what kind of the answer is not make it bad again. The answer is, how do we get back to that original impact? How do we polish it even more to make it look unpolished or feel unpolished in a way, make it feel more visceral. So that's kind of a great game, even though it can be super frustrating because I'll be sitting there thinking, that's a fucking good song and I don't like it. Like, you should be crying after you hear that song.
Yeah.
Nobody's crying. That song doesn't work. We got to make it work.
Yeah, I really did just kind of compliment you and the band. The arrangements, I really liked a lot of the way you did some of those, like the small things, like just some of the instrumentation or some of your vocal lines. So that stuff really came out. I mean, you could tell you took a lot of time and really put a lot of effort into it. So that's cool.
Those are the things that, like, to me, that are the stick in my head from songs that I love. They're just like tiny little touches that just make everything sing. I don't know what it is. Like, I'm thinking right now of like the song "Bitch" by the Rolling Stones, and there's just like a little, there's that dun 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 dun, and then there's like, there's just like one little
like
bend.
That one note.
And I'm like, oh, that one kills me. It's like why is that in there? It's so perfect, and I can't imagine the song without it. And it's like that kind of stuff. I'm mystified by, like, where's that touch that's just gonna like cut me and make this something that I'll always remember.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, chapter and verse, I think, was probably my favorite track.
Wow.
Just sonically, like all the cool little stuff, like I was saying, the violin that's in there, the way your vocal runs are, that was really cool.
Yeah.
So I really like that.
That's a funny song because the chorus for that really is the only time this has ever happened. But I woke up, I was shooting the X-Files. This was 2016 or 17, 2020. I don't know. It was a while ago. And I wasn't writing, but I woke up and I heard that chorus was got no plans but time on my hands, you on my mind, and nothing but time. And just this kind of circular floating around the lyrics of time and hands and plans. And I just took my phone and I sang it, and then it just sat there, and eventually I wrote the verses for chapter and verse. And then I was like, hey, why don't we just go, there's that chorus I wrote like 2 years ago. Let's put that on it.
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool the way that happens.
Yeah.
And then I also, just kind of going back to the album, wanted to mention the lyrics to Call Me When You Land. That one kind of really hit me because I've got 4 kids, 3 girls, 1 boy, all under 11. So I constantly kind of feel like parenting is like a process of just letting go in various stages, basically from the time they're born.
You haven't gotten to the 3rd verse
yet. I'm not there yet. But I really appreciated that song, and I just wanted to ask, like, are there certain songs, either on this album or on some of your previous ones, that just, like you kind of mentioned, just kind of grab you and are like, I mean, all your songs obviously are very personal, but are there some that really hit you hard?
Yeah. Well, it's funny you bring that one up, because that song, like, I love "Cats in the Cradle" by Harry Chapin.
I kill you.
And I cry every time
that
song comes on. And I know it's kind of hokey, but it gets me every time. And then I'm always like, I'm gonna write my Cats in the Cradle. I'm gonna write my Cats in the Cradle. It's like, how am I gonna write my Cats in the Cradle? And so I came up with those lyrics and that tune, and I was like, okay, this is my Cats in the Cradle. And I wrote it, and I had that version of just the guitar and me, and it moved me. And then that song was tough. We went through many, like, it was exactly what I was saying before. It was like, it got better, and it also got colder. And it's like, I was very close to giving up on that one for this album. It was like, I love the song, but I'm not loving this song. I'm not loving this arrangement. And then we finally broke it down again and built it back up, and and it got to a point where I could feel something again with it. So, yeah, I mean, song's very meaningful to me. Stars on the first album, I thought was a lyric that was meaningful to me. Kind of a good contained lyric about starlight, I thought was good and meaningful and moving. The song I didn't put on the first album, Stay on the Train, was very similar, like father to child song, and then like I've also said, like like the number one song, like in an area, like the number one song to me of the pain of parenting is Cats in the Cradle.
Yeah.
And the number one, well, Father and Son by Cat Stevens is also beautiful. I don't know if you know that song.
Sure, you bet.
Yeah. And then the number one Hollywood song to me is Hotel California. So I was like, I got to write my Hotel California. How am I going to write my Hotel California? And I was like, that Pacific Coast Highway was like my attempt at writing my Hotel California.
Yeah, that was a great song too. And as someone who's never been that far out and seen the Pacific Coast Highway, it makes me want to get out there and see it.
Yeah.
And then I know in the bio that they sent over that it said you were looking forward to getting out on the road. So I'm kind of curious about that. Like, will the guys you record with go on the road? And then are you looking at mostly Western states, or are you kind of looking to come out even further?
We'd go anywhere when it's safe. When it's safe, yeah.
Sure.
It's just all up in the air, right? It's all in the air and up in the air right now, and we have to be safe, and all that. But it's always the band. I mean, we love playing live. Those guys love playing live, and yeah, we'd love to tour all the states. I mean, up until now, we've really done East Coast, West Coast a couple times, and we've done Chicago, but we've never really like trudged our way across the country as band. I'd love to. It's just a matter of figuring out when it's safe and how to do it, and how many people we could draw. We can draw like 3,000 people sometimes, and that's amazing. But just figuring out. Luckily I don't have to figure out those logistics. I couldn't. But yeah, I mean the will is there. We want to, but we also want everybody to be safe, and we want the band to be safe.
Sure, yeah. I guess the only other thing I was kind of wondering about is on the Instagram there is a number of really cool videos that I would have people go look at. Was that stuff all in Outlier? Was that in the New York, that footage that came from there, or was that after?
That was after. That was after we recorded. Yeah, that's not actually recording. We were recording. We thought we'd do kind of unplugged versions of the songs.
Oh yeah.
But and we do. Those are recorded. That's what we were recording then. Which is why, my face is blocked for everything, because we actually were recording. But I ended up saying, we worked long and hard on producing these songs the way we want to hear them. Why would we put out like the unplugged version first? Let's not confuse it. So we did some tricks with tempo, because I think the unplugged versions were a little slower. But yeah, that's what we were doing. And at some point, those songs will be mixed and exist. But that's what that was. That was fairly recent.
Yeah, it was really cool to kind of see that whole process and actually see you in the studio recording, and
Yeah, well, obviously, we didn't have a drummer, so couldn't, in some of those songs, there's some heavy drumming. So, but it worked. The footage worked for the songs as produced as well.
And so you had mentioned maybe doing something kind of different for the next album. Are you? Will you get back with the same guys? Is that kind of what you do? You get all together and you say, "Here's all my ideas.
Yeah.
Let's throw some tunes on this."
Yeah, and their ideas too. I mean, now we're functioning really as a band, I think, and that's kind of exciting to me moving forward. Like thinking about the sound that we can make. This kind of collaborative sound that we can make, and songs that we can write as collaborators in real time, rather than kind of like, here's half a song, send it back to me, that kind of stuff. But like in the room, that's exciting.
Yeah. I can always kind of tell when I hear an album if the band clicks. I guess it's kind of hard to explain.
Yeah.
There's a big difference between guys, sitting around in a room hashing stuff out than, like you said, just phoning it in and here's this piece, here's that piece. So
Yeah, yeah.
this album came out fantastic like that.
Oh, thanks. Well, it gets back to what we started talking about, which was, you know, how do you get that feeling across that you want to with this song, and it's not about the best guitar lead or the best guitar line or the best drum bit. It's really like everything has everything coalescing to making this song that has an impact on somebody.
Yeah, I loved it. Well, that's kind of, I know it's kind of quick and short. That's kind of all the stuff I had specifically about the album.
It's great.
I've just got a couple extra questions.
Yeah.
So one thing that I kind of struggle with from time to time between like photography, video editing, writing, whatever, is just burnout. So as you know, I kind of consider you a multi-discipline artist yourself, being an actor, writer, musician. Is there anything that you kind of do structurally to stay productive or to stay, I guess, to keep pushing through that?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think having kind of spent so many years as an actor and having like a specific chunk of work that I had to do in a day, because mostly I'm doing film stuff and not doing a play. So like every day I knew the certain amount I had to do, be prepared for that. I like it. I'm comfortable with kind of like, oh, here's the task. So when I have an idea, like I said, if I have an idea that I'm writing, I feel good. And even if I'm not writing well, I know I'm within the structure of it. I think probably it's good for me for somebody to say, okay, like start working on your next album, because then I would like, okay, that's my structure. I have some tasks to do. I guess I like homework. I don't really like just like an expanse of like a blank canvas in front of me. So burnout to me happens when I don't work in a weird way.
Oh, interesting.
Then I start to get dull in a way. Yeah, it's weird. It's weird. It's not work that burns me out. It's not work that burns me out.
Is there anything that you see kind of successful artists or musicians doing, or that you yourself do, that you kind of think, well, that's why they're at the level that they're at? Like just for me, I kind of see, around here, there's 100 photographers and there's probably like 2 that are good. And I know why they're good because I see their work and I'm like, that's incredible. I know why they're on the top of the pile. Is there maybe something that you kind of see out of people that you think, yeah, that's why they're in the position they're at?
Yeah. But like, what is that quality? It would be so different across the board, right? Like across all the disciplines. I mean, like what is that quality in a photograph that you're responding to? I mean, what would you say? Like when you say that guy's good, I say he's good because what am I seeing? What are you seeing?
Yeah, like I say he's good because like the clarity of the photo, not only just the clarity of the photo, but the way he took the photo, maybe the way he edited it, he added it into black and white instead of leaving it color,
Right.
So when I see those kind of things, and it's like when you hear a song, and you're like, like the one I was telling you about,
Yeah.
you kind of go, oh man, that hits me right here.
Yeah. I guess what you're saying is there are certain choices that you make, and then eventually the choices become a style, or that choice becomes actually the content, And for me, choice just means instinct. I think, with any kind of art, whether it's photography or I don't paint, song, acting, writing, directing, it's all making choices. And then, but those choices aren't logical. You're like, I want to see that tree in the background. Why? I don't know. I just do. Or I don't like it. Can you just frame that out? Why? I don't know. It's just like it's all just gut. And then I think the people that are successful have a good gut and they have learned to rely on it. And that doesn't mean that they don't do their work. I think a good gut comes from preparation. But I think what you start to see is a certain style or a signature, and that's really that person's instinct or unconscious or something at work, which they allow to come out in that form by making the choices that they do. So I guess, I don't know, does
Yeah.
that make any sense?
Yeah, it does. That's cool. It's
Yeah.
kind of there's a John Mellencamp documentary coming out, and in some of the prep work, because I'm reviewing that as well, he there's a scene where he's talking to his photographer buddy who's taking a picture of this bottle, and he's just waiting there for like 2 hours to take this picture. And he's like, why don't you just take the picture? And and his buddy's like, well, I'm waiting for the light to hit it. John's like, just
Yeah,
move the
exactly.
bottle. He's like, I can't. I have to wait for the light.
Right. Yeah, it's true. It's true. And, it's hard to do because, like using that example, like say he was shooting a movie, you'd have somebody say, we're burning money waiting, let's just, we'll have an artificial light. You go like, no, it has to be natural.
Yeah.
It looks exactly the same, all this stuff. So you really have to keep fighting.
Yeah, that's great. That's very helpful. I struggle with not fighting and not applying it myself, so that's why
So do I.
I love
We all
interviewing people who can do it a
never
little better
ends.
than me.
It never ends. And the difficult thing is you can't really explain why you want it that way.
A tremendous thank you to Mr. David Duchovny for taking some time to talk through his songwriting process and letting me dig into some of his motivations. I'd like to also thank Erica Tooker of Erica Tooker PR and Video Promotion, who set everything up for us. Get over to Mr. Duchovny's website to follow along with where the band might be playing, and also keep up with his novels and where you can see him on the big screen next. You can always follow me on any of podcast platforms under The Art Inside the Craft. Or go to Black Hat Bone Productions on Instagram to follow along with which bands I'll be photographing next. Thank you all for tuning in, and until next time, I'll catch you all down the road.